welcome to All Things Labour Law. And today I have a practical demonstration of what is happening in the workplace. Thanks, Cleveland, for availing yourself to come give us some insight about your workplace. But I mean, what I basically want to ask you is that what are practical things that's happening in your workplace in terms of the things now that you have learned here on the channel, things that you've seen of our previous content, and then when you go to your workplace, what are the type of things that you see, and what practical things that you can say that you have applied in the workplace?
Good day, audience. Well, with regard to all the channels, the content in the channels that I've watched, I have applied most of it, actually 90% of it.
Oh,
And
nice.
it has helped my fellow workers. We are unionized. We approach our shop stewards with caution when it comes to being members. And first and foremost, they need to apply whatever the preamble and constitution of the union is presented. We need to apply that first and foremost. In one of your previous channels, you've mentioned the mandate, and the mandate is the instruction from us as workers towards the shop steward council or your representative, and that mandate is binding towards the shop stewards. You must listen as a shop steward to your employees or your members, because your members are the collective, and when they want something done, you have to abide by that instruction.
Course,
and you go
sometimes
out,
you'll see it's not always the case here.
It's not always the case. To be honest, now it's not always the case. Because they tend to act more like a trustee instead of a representative. And
well, sometimes you'll see that they normally, it's not nice to say, but they to the side of the employer, but they're supposed to be representing you.
I wouldn't go so far as to say that they're on the side of the employer. Most situations that I've encountered is that shop stewards tend to lean towards their own understanding of it, and not consulting the labour law first before addressing an issue. And like we know in the history of labour, we know that the basic conditions of employment should be visible and available for everybody
to see in the workplace, especially when you're working and you're operating.
And that is a rule. It is a rule. It is a law. It is in legislation, and that is what it should be. And for me, listening to the channel and watching the channel has proved much more helpful than listening to a shop steward because of the rights of the employees.
Yes, very
and
important.
Most of the time, the rights of the employees are being infringed. And that is the reality. We know that it happens. We know that some people are not educated enough to go out there and read this. That is why I distribute the channel. I promote the channel. I want people to know more about their rights as an employee or as a worker in this country. And by far, we are very protected with the labour law.
As compared to other countries, South African employees are very, very protected, because what I've realized as well is that, South Africa is benchmarking as to how to conduct business in terms of labour law. If you look at countries in Europe, if you look in America, places like that, people are not quite that protected. And our legislation, when I've checked now, is that our legislation is very progressive. You see, so I can see what you mean when you say that. So can you maybe identify maybe one or two things that you've seen in the workplace where you see, but hey, this is not how things are supposed to be? Can you maybe just?
I can elaborate on one small instance happened a couple of years ago, where we approached a shop steward with regard to overtime. Problem being that there's a subheading of overtime when it comes to NBF, and as you could tell the audience that NBF agreements overrides certain agreements like your LRA, your Labour Relations Act.
The proper word that we normally use in the legislation is the collective agreement. Now you belong to a bargaining council. So bargaining councils, it's negotiated between a union and the employer, or a group of employers. That is actually how a bargaining council is formed. And another, sorry to cut you, but I'm just going to have to explain this.
Better that you explain.
So the bargaining council is formed by those two parties or a group of companies. Like in your sector, you're in the manufacturing sector. You belong to MOPCO, the Motor Industry Bargaining Council. Né? So there's many like Ford, BMW, VW, all those companies belong to this bargaining council. And then you have a collective agreement in there. Now the thing about the collective agreement is that it supersedes the act even. So whatever you have come to an agreement there, that is binding. So yeah, you had an issue about overtime, and overtime is obviously in the basic condition of employment. Now what happened in your case?
In that case, actually consulting the channel first, knowing that the bargaining forum, actually the collective agreement supersedes that.
Yeah.
But in the bargaining agreement, or collective agreement, there was a stipulation there.
There was a specific clause in there.
Specific clause in there, and it basically spoke to the agreement with overtime, with regard to overtime.
Oh, okay.
And you cannot. It was actually stemming from the basic conditions of employment.
Yeah.
You need to agree on something. As your benchmark is set by your basic conditions of employment.
Yes. There's a model that you used to use. Yeah, yes, of course.
And you work from that model. And in that clause, there was
the thing about the agreement you said.
Yeah, the agreement. I don't know what subsection it is, but I know that it was overtime, and I know that the direct wording was that it is binding by both parties must agree on the overtime.
Yes.
Which means
that one clause is very important.
Very important.
Now people overlook that thing.
They overlook that thing because they come to you, then they tell your employer says you have to work overtime today. Number one, you need to be notified 24 hours in writing or verbally that you need to be
by your immediate supervisor.
By your immediate supervisor.
Yeah, sure.
And your shop steward must be told about it.
Yes.
Then, only then, that people will come to you and they will ask you. They will not tell you what to do. They will ask, can you?
Yeah.
And it is your discretion. You will have you use your discretion and say, yes, I am available for the overtime, and I can work this overtime.
Yes.
Even though the period that elapsed was 15 minutes before the time.
He told you come to work overtime.
Yeah. You can't just go to someone and tell them you have to work overtime.
They don't know what plans you have for your family or your own
because number one, you've got kids to fetch from school.
Yeah.
You've got to go do your grocery shopping maybe after work.
Whatever the reason is,
whatever the reason, you don't even have to tell them the reason why you cannot work overtime. But the most important thing here is that you need to agree to the overtime, both sides.
Yeah.
Employer presents, you agree. If you don't agree, you take it forward.
Yeah.
But you cannot just infringe on the employee's rights and say you must do this. It doesn't work that way. Exactly. That is why the collective agreement is written down.
Yeah. No, that is important. That's now a nice practical example as to how the things go. But you said to me, you have this unique opportunity to ask me questions, so I'm open. Whatever questions you have for me as a normal worker, I will be able to answer. So you can just go ahead with that.
I've got so many questions.
Well, we have a golden opportunity now to ask me. Yeah.
I've had a lot of opportunity and I've done this using the channel. I don't always use the channel, but I go directly to you because what you're going to speak about on the channel, I will ask you beforehand. And when it comes to labor issues, like you say, the collective agreement is basically superseding or overriding the LRA and the basic conditions of employment. It does leave a bad taste in one's mouth, knowing that I know my rights, but my fellow worker does not know his rights. And that is what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to educate my fellow worker as to what is happening and what is his rights when it comes to being an employee and being a unionized employee. And that is very important for them to comprehend, because going forward, your shop steward, like we've highlighted, all shop stewards are not the same.
Yeah, sure.
All shop stewards do not act in the interest of their members. And all shop stewards do not apply the rule of law when it comes to the constitution of the unions.
And all unions must have a constitution.
All unions must have a constitution, and it must be upheld.
Yes, of course.
Through and through.
Of course.
And we sit with the problem of majority rules. Within the union structure, majority rules. No matter what, majority rules. So if you've got a situation of, say, 25 unionized members, where a situation is presented and we need to vote on this, out of the 25 people, 7 of those people don't agree with it.
Yeah,
then we sit with the problem of, I'm not happy with this, but the rest of the workers, 18 of the workers, are happy with it. So what do we do when it comes to that? We need to find common ground. We need to speak to each other, and we need to get a feasible solution to this little situation that presents itself. Because we can't have members who are dissatisfied with a situation.
Yeah. So that speaks to the issue of mandate. What you're talking about now is that you go to your employer and say, look, remember, the first thing you have to remember is that anything is up for negotiation with the employer. There is nothing that is untouchable. Like, you can even ask them, look, shop steward, we want you to ask the employer to be able to have a higher contribution in terms of medical aid. There's medical aid, the employer is giving us 50%, ask them for 80%. Doesn't matter what it is. Now, what the shop steward, in conjunction with the organizer, maybe they have to go and say, look, if they go to the national bargaining forum, remember it's now structures in the unions now. If they go to the national bargaining forum and all the employees, here's the representative of the employees, they must say, look, this is what my members want. Now sometimes when they go there without a mandate. They go there with their own political point scoring and to get whatever right they want to get right, or they want to prove something that nobody knows what it's about. You see, so it's about the mandate, and that mandate must be clearly communicated to the ground. Now the problem is when something happens in a national structure, the dissemination of information does not come to the ground, and it's supposed to be the other way around. The information must come from the ground at the end of the day, so that if the information is disseminated, I'm sure the members will be able to say, no, look, run with that. Or if they don't want to, they will give you they will substantiate their reasons to say, no, we don't want that because X, Y, and Z. There could be unintended consequences of this thing or what, because you know what is the everyday happenings in the workplace must know. So you see, so all those things. That's why it's important to have, if it's possible, bi-weekly meetings. But I see in your sector they have quarterly meetings. You as an employee, you must join those quarterly meetings. People think that is now a time. No, I'm going to go home early. But that's it. That's the time where you have to.
It's the platform that we use.
That's the most important platform for you to be able to air your frustrations or whatever the problem is. And that's why I always say that it's important for people to join trade unions. Also, on top of that is that if you have a problem, you protect them. But the drawback that I have discovered is that your representative in the form of an office bearer or a trade union, the problem is that they are not properly equipped, and that's the sad reality. They don't know how to handle things, and it's union's responsibility to train those people. They have massive amount of money and budgets allocated specifically for training. Sometimes that money doesn't get used. For some reason it just goes back to the coffers of the union, and that is where you have the power as an employee to be able to hold them accountable. So that's quite important. But thank you very much for your insight. Is there anything else that you want to?
Like I said, I've got a lot of issues and
well, maybe we just go to another two questions, and then we can take it from then we can continue.
We've spoken about the mandate now. We've spoken about your rights as an employee.
Yes.
We've spoken about the majority rule within a union structure. The other thing that could be addressed is, like you say, mandate is being given, and the training of the shop stewards. When you talk about training of a shop steward, what training is he supposed to go through? Is he supposed to go through the training of labor relations? Is he supposed to be equipped with the Labor Relations Act? Is he supposed to be equipped with the Basic Conditions of Employment Act? Because these things are freely available. You can go on the internet, you can go on a Facebook page. Everything is available for us as employees to equip ourselves and strengthen our boundaries, let me put it that way. Because an employer is known for overstepping the boundaries. And when you are unionized, the best thing for an employer to do is to capture, like a very good word, capture the shop stewards. And quite frankly, it has been happening. It is happening, and it's going to happen. And
because this person could be a problem.
Exactly.
And then let's just take him out of this and then let's make him maybe on management level or whatever. Give him a salary increase. So those things happen.
And it's a reality. Yeah, we've seen that happen. We know that it happens, and we don't have proof. An employee will never have proof whether his shop steward is doing what he's supposed to do. Which brings me to the most important and most pertinent question: is that why unions or why shop stewards don't document these things via dictaphone? Because I mean, we live in a technological age now. You can use a dictaphone. You can use black and white. Take a piece of paper, write everything down. When you
discussing in the boardrooms.
Exactly. We want to know what you are discussing in a boardroom, because what is part of the preamble of a union? Transparency.
Of course, yeah.
We need to know what you guys are doing behind those closed doors. Because you come back to us and you say, no, the employer said that, but how true does it ring to us? You see, we're only getting word of mouth. We're not. It's what they call in law hearsay. That's all we're getting. That's all we're getting in a meeting or in a feedback session.
No, I see.
And it's very important for them to be transparent. Very, very important.
Now, look. The thing is, you're touching quite a interesting thing there. The thing is, an office bearer, first and foremost, must know what their function is, must know what the responsibility is, must know what you're there for. Now, a shop steward's role is not a very easy role. It's a difficult role, because you essentially are the cushion between the employer and the employees, First of all, now the important thing is, as a shop steward, the first thing you need to remember is you are an employee first before you shop steward. Okay? So you have your responsibility to the employer. Okay? However, if you engage your employer with any aspect, especially when it's somebody on a higher level, then you indicate to him, you say, look here, I'm coming to you in the capacity of a shop steward now, and I'm putting my cap on as a shop steward. Automatically, you know what that means? You are on the same level. Even if he is the director of the company, if you come to him and say, look, I'm coming to you on a platform as an office bearer, then you're on the same level. Because at the end of the day, you are a shop steward, you have the backing of the union behind you. If something goes wrong, if they want to, like, it's even in the LRA. It says there that if the employer contemplates disciplining a shop steward, he must notify the union first. Doesn't matter what the problem is, because the legislation has clearly realized that you're going to be I don't know what word to use, but you are going to be the cushion between the employer and the employee. Now the thing is, your employer, the employees want you to do certain things, and the employer also requires you to do your normal duties.
I think that word is called delegation.
Yeah. So that is you need to know what your function is, and then the thing is, after that, you need to know what the legislation says about your role in the organization, and that is quite important to do. But I mean, these things it can be quite tough, and shop stewards, they must know what their role is, and there's no other way to be able to really put it.
Another question, one last question that I have is the HR structure. What is the function of a HR structure? You previously called human resources, is now called human capital.
Oh, in your organization is well
called? In our organization is called human capital now. For me, my personal opinion with the wording of that structure, human capital, it's basically taking the human aspect away, as in taking away the
person. It's not a person into a commodity now.
Exactly.
They're not personalizing the thing anymore.
It's not personalized anymore. It's not human resources. We used to be a resource, but now we are capital. Capital means that you are held in high regard by the company. That means you are a very valuable asset.
Sure.
That's what capital translates to. It's an asset to the company, but at the same time, you're not treated as an asset. You see, and that is where I find the difficulty in understanding what is happening with the structure of HR now and their roles and responsibilities, because HR and shop steward council should be working together,
of course,
to mitigate any risks or whatever problems arises from the floor. Because I mean, without your employees, your company cannot exist.
and people need to know the value. Employees,
need to know the
employees are just as equally important as profits. Now the problem is that the employer always put profits over their headcount. The thing about people, HR, is that you, I don't know, how can I put it now? No, wait, I just lost my train of thought now. But we can continue now. You can just edit it out now. Now
HR goes this way. This is what HR's function is. HR is supposed to be unbiased. Even though you are staff members, you are on employee side, basically you are the go-between.
Yeah, the go-between, yeah.
You are the go-between, but now employees have the union that is their go-between when it comes to bargaining only. But HR has a specific function. They've got payroll, they've got administration. Benefits of the company goes through HR. Everything goes through HR, except for collective bargaining.
Yeah, no, you know, HR is all to do with people. So which means the function of HR,
it was a very personal aspect though.
Yeah,
HR has got a very personal
aspect. Yeah, because
involved in the employee's well-being.
Yes.
Financially, emotionally, physically, everything.
Even your skills, just because HR got a training budget, they pay your salary, they equip you in terms of giving you education. If you want to study, they organize that things for you, you know. So HR function is a very critical function, especially in the workplace. Without HR, company can't really operate, you know. So yeah, the point I was trying to make earlier on is that people are pushed one side when it comes to the employer, you know. They push profits. But one thing that the employer doesn't realize is that person comes with a skill. Especially that employer has been working for the company for a long time. He has built institutional memory over the time, so which means he knows his function from inside out. He knows the employee knows his purpose, why he's there, you know. And when it comes to the retrenchment, what they do is they cut the employees without looking at all the other things first in terms of how we can save the cost of the company. But he realized, I've seen especially in your sector, I've seen that when there was a transfer of business, when the company cuts too much, what happens? They lack the people with the skills, and then now they're going to cost them money to be able to upskill new people that comes and know nothing about the business, and then so much so to the fact that they've realized they cut too much and start calling people back. Look, I think we need to come back now, you know. So that is So you're right. HR has a very important function in the workplace, yes. But thank you very much, Cleveland, for your insight in terms of how your workplace, because each and every person have different issues in the workplace, né? And now you just highlighting one aspect. I know there's people that contact me in the wholesale and retail sector, people working at ShopRite, they're having issues. People working at other manufacturing places like in the food industry, the employers are not complying. And they say, but what is happening? What can I do? And that's why we try to do this. We try to be able to, so that you as an employee can know your rights. And people think that we are actually pro-employer or pro-employee basically. But the reality of the fact of the matter is that the employer has the most power at the end of the day, and the employee is reliant on this job. So there could be an element of exploitation because you are reliant on this employer for this income, and at the end of the day, this employer can at the end can potentially abuse you in the workplace because he knows you have no way out. If you leave here, you destitute at the end of the day. So you need to know your rights. At the end of the day, now on the employer side, now what we try to do is on this channel, we try to bring parties together, and it's basically in line with what the legislation says, to bring labor peace and to create mutual respect between two parties. Mutual respect is very fundamentally important between the employer and the employee, because if you have a happy employer, if you have a happy employee, you get production, you get productivity. What is productivity? Equals
revenue.
Revenue, yeah, of course.
revenue.
So you see, so if we in the South African labour market, if we can bridge that gap to bring parties together in terms of mutual respect, then I think there won't be so much strikes, there won't be so much proliferation of unions where unions just break away because there's an issue there, and because there's a narrative out there that is quite sad but true, is that the unions are not working for the people. It's not supposed to be like that, but it's an unfortunate drawback in terms of the highly volatile labour market we're in. See? But thank you very much, and I hope all of you guys have learned from what we have discussed here. If you have any questions, just leave us a comment, and I will be able to engage you further on the channel. But don't remember also, I deal with many of the things that I talk about here. I deal with on my Facebook page, also called All Things Labour Law. Thank you very much.